Back in 2008, I played a game that I'd been highly anticipating the release of. It was an action survival horror game set in space and following along the same vein as Resident Evil 4. That third-person perspective, over-the-shoulder camera, laser aiming reticle goodness. And I was hoping for an action-packed thrill ride, and let me tell you, I was not disappointed in the slightest. Because Dead Space had all the best ingredients of horror and action smashed together into a slick package. It had creepy enemies that could come at you in large packs and from any angle, a nice variety of weapons that were completely unique and very fun to use, as well as a balanced difficulty that required you to play smarter than a lot of other games but was still almost never frustrating. Also, it had an engaging story, some neat boss fights, and stellar visuals. I have to say, to me, it matched pound for pound with how I felt about Resident Evil 4, and I beat Dead Space at least 8 times on the PlayStation 3, which is more than I can say for any other game that I've been playing at the time. Most of them I finished once, and that was all I needed, but this one brought something much more to the table. So in the very beginning of 2011, we saw the next installment of this action horror hybrid. So did it live up to the original, or did it die trying? Let's take a look and find out. So it's been 3 years since Isaac Clarke was aboard a necromorph-infested space mining ship, the USG Ishimura. After suffering great loss at the end of the previous game, his sanity was in question and he was placed in an asylum within the Sprawl, which is a space station located near the planet Saturn. Our story starts with Isaac in a straitjacket and he's restrained. He is set free by Franco Delisle, who is also in a Dead Space game called Dead Space Ignition. Sadly, Franco is killed whilst releasing Isaac by an infector necromorph and turns into one gruesomely before Isaac's eyes. After pushing Franco aside and running from the room, Isaac's escape and the chaos begin. The game shows you the tactics needed to face the necromorphs and lays them out in a nice, smooth fashion. One by one you learn all the mechanics of the game: healing, kinesis, hacking, stasis, and of course melee. Stasis is an ability that shoots a blue beam capable of slowing down whatever enemy it hits, which is useful for puzzles and slowing down highly mobile enemies for easier combat management. Kinesis is a telekinetic ability that allows you to pick up enemies as well as level debris and necromorph body parts, which can be used as a one-shot weapon. All of these tools are important to survival on the Sprawl. Enemies are fast, come from anywhere and everywhere, and tensions are high at almost all times. Whereas Dead Space was a fast-paced game with some slower sections, Dead Space 2 is full throttle when it comes to action. Playing this game with headphones or a great surround sound system is a must, because the use of sound is another high point of this series. Since enemies can and will come from all sides, you need to be able to hear them before they can get to you. Your suit is called the Resource Integration Gear, or RIG, and is a very important part of your survival. It can be upgraded, and so can your weapons, with power nodes that are found scattered throughout the locales of Dead Space 2. These upgrades are made at benches and pertain to everything from how much life you have, how far your kinesis can reach, how long your stasis lasts, and many more options. The key is to explore and find as many nodes as you can so you can make this journey a lot easier on yourself. Also, you'll find stores throughout the game that let you buy crucial items such as new rigs, weapons, ammo, and stasis packs. So grab all the money from enemies and areas that you can and stock up because you're gonna need it. The weapons are awesome as well, bringing back a lot of classics from the first title, like the plasma cutter, line gun, ripper, and more. And also bringing in some new ones like the pulse rifle, the detonator gun, and the javelin gun, just to name a few. All of the weapons are fun to play with and to figure out what works best for your playstyle. For me, it was always simple: the plasma cutter and pulse rifle. When things get too hectic though, you can't go too wrong with a beefed up line gun. All the enemies from the first Dead Space for the most part have returned, and they brought some new friends as well. The Sprawl is crawling with necromorphs at every corner, and you'll want to take them out as quickly as you can, otherwise you'll be swarmed in no time. The new enemy types are sometimes a pain in the ass, but their presence really teaches you to prioritize based on what's coming at you. Some enemies explode if they get too close, some are insanely fast, others are super strong and can kill you quickly, while some spit acid and slow you down. Always be on the move and make every shot count. The good news is, stomping on corpses of enemies usually nets you either credits, ammo, or health items, so that helps you if you're in need. The difficulty is still fair, and checkpoints and save stations are in abundance all throughout the game. Dying is something the developers knew you were going to do occasionally, and they never seemed to punish you as much as they could for it. I never felt frustrated because I never had to go back extremely far after a death. Also, Dead Space 2 makes it beyond difficult to get lost because a waypoint can be shown with a touch of a button. It's that simple to figure out where to head next. Another high point is the fact that, like Dead Space, you fight against enemies in a different way than other horror games that use guns against creatures. In most titles involving shooting, what's the first thing you're probably going to aim for? The head. It's been ingrained in our minds that the head is the weak spot to shoot first. Well, in Dead Space, however, that's not the case at all. Blowing a head off usually just pisses the enemy off more. The goal is more to go for the limbs. Most of all your weapons are laser based and are used for cutting tools that separate appendages like a sharp knife through a string. This departure from how other games play might seem like it would take a while to get used to, but trust me, you'll be severing limbs like a pro in no time. There are also sections taking place in the vacuum of space where you have no air other than what is provided in your rig. You'll need to get whatever objectives given to you done in a hasty manner. Usually there are plenty of oxygen tanks around to keep you going, so this part isn't too much of a nuisance, even though it can lead to some high stress situations. I could get into all the parts of the story, but honestly I don't want to spoil any of the surprises this game has to offer, including the ones in the first game in case you haven't played it yet. And there are some big spoilers at the beginning of this game that ruin the ending to the first one if you don't already know what's going on. And this is a game I highly recommend that you pick up if you haven't already, or have just been on the fence about. If you love horror, action, and fun, then you owe it to yourself to own this game.
You were drifting away for a moment there, Mr. Clark. I believe you were telling me about your nightmares that you've been having.